What? Wait, what? Am I just dumb? Yes! Sorry, plant. Okay. I'm getting emotional. Oh, I did it! How did I do it? It's so frustrating. How do I not understand it? I've been using Premiere Pro for 10 years now, but honestly, it's not been the kindest of softwares to me. Random crashes coupled with slow performance have both negatively impacted my creative flow. I was noticing that a lot of other YouTubers were praising Final Cut Pro for its speed and its intuitive interface. So last month, I finally decided to sit down in front of Final Cut and see what all the fuss was about. What you're about to experience are all of my frustrations, elations, and many other adjectives that could be used to describe what it was like for me to try and get to grips with using Final Cut 10. This isn't one of the shortest videos that I've put out, but I think you'll find it pretty entertaining and also informative if you've been playing around with the idea of switching up your editing software. So without further ado, let's figure out how Final Cut works. Man, I'm pretty excited about this actually. It's very rare that I get to try a new piece of software, and especially one that could potentially be a replacement for a piece of software that I use so much and have so much experience with. Am I gonna like it? Am I gonna hate it? I'm really not sure. So one of the great things about Final Cut though is that they give you a 90-day free trial, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah, let's download the free trial right now. I'm gonna recreate a YouTube video that I edited for my channel in Final Cut from start to finish, and then I can truly kind of see the difference. It might not be exactly spot on, but I think that's the best way for me to truly give an opinion of how this compares in terms of using the software versus using Premiere Pro. So weird, I've not seen this icon in a while. Oh, so intimidating. Actually, to be fair, it looks pretty straightforward. Let's do a new project. Rendering. Is this like cache rendering? It's interesting that there's only ProRes. That's kind of a big setting. If it's gonna cache previews in ProRes, that's big. Oh, this feels smoother. I kind of like how it follows my mouse automatically though, because with Premiere, I always have to hotkey a setting where I tap the E button on the keyboard and then it follows where it is. So I kind of like that. Okay, let's import the footage. What a frame for it to pause on, right? Oh God, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand the whole non-folder system. Like, why can't I create a folder? Are these the folders? Am I just dumb and I don't understand why I can't figure this out? Oh, okay, so this is a bit more of a traditional, oh, okay. Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, I'm very confused. Oh my God, how does it work? I honestly don't know. I don't understand this. Stop, delete. Well, this is way more stressful than I thought. What? Final Cut. I thought Premiere was crap and slow and crashy, and this is, oh, now we're working. Okay, well that's not good. I still don't like how you can't organize these into folders. I don't understand this folder system, so I'm not even gonna try and learn it right now. Let's just keep going. So it will not play back my 4K 10-bit files smoothly. I don't understand this copy file business. What's the deal? Like, didn't I copy the files already? I'm so confused. What's it importing? Maybe I have to watch a tutorial. It's so frustrating. How do I not understand it?
We can choose copy to library so that Final Cut Pro does not need to link to our source.
What? You can ask it to literally copy the file to Final Cut? What's the advantage to that? I'm so confused. Okay. Let's start editing. Holy crap. I'm not really sure what the event thing means, but I think it's the project. Yeah, everything is just named differently. So projects is sequence and events are projects, if you were to translate the language from Premiere. It's so weird that there's no video track. I mean, there is, but like they're just not numbered and labeled, which is really bizarre to me. What is primary storyline? How do you know what my storyline is? Everything has a different name that I need to learn. My God. How do you cut? YouTube tutorial to the rescue. I need to search how to do a cut in Final Cut. Oh, I did it. How did I do it? More stressful than I thought using a new piece of software because I want it to be good. I really want it to be an enjoyable experience for me, but so far it's been pretty stressful. I mean, if I'm thinking a positive now, just the fact that it doesn't have tracks here is a massively less intimidating thing, I think, for people, because the idea of tracks and layers and stuff is immediately complex for them. So the fact that it is just like your clip is here straight away and it's really big and nice is a bonus, I think, so far. Let's do our first cut. Wait, what is it to cut? Oh, the magnetic timeline right there. That's what everyone raves about with Final Cut, and let's see if I like it. I'm gonna watch this whole thing because I genuinely feel like it's literally the equivalent of me like picking up a guitar and trying to play it and then being like, oh, I don't know how to play it, and then throwing it on the floor. I just need some help with this. And I feel like I'm not giving Final Cut a fair go by just trying to figure it out, and I'm just getting frustrated. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna watch a few tutorials. Hopefully things start to make a little bit more sense, and maybe even for you, because this is not a tutorial video. This is just me reacting as a 10-year Premiere user to see what Final Cut is like and whether or not it's the software that I should change to. I'm gonna do tutorials, and then again, I will go back to editing this and we'll see what my impressions become as I learn more about the software and start to figure out how it actually works. Wow, it saves in the background. I kind of like that. I hated that Premiere just would save, and it doesn't even save fast. Like the splash screen just comes over right in front of what you're doing. This is way better. If this is truly how it works and it doesn't have any weird flaws with working this way. Whoa. Oh, all right, okay. I'm getting emotional. In Premiere, I always want to go through the footage within the browser and to organize it and to look through it, and then I don't end up doing that because I just find that there's no real way to like, you can make like sub clips, but I always find it's really messy and not that useful. But this whole favorites thing is genius. Favorite in it, and then you can literally go and then drag it in, and then you basically have your edit and your timeline already, and then you can just tidy it up a bit and tweak it, versus dragging an entire clip in and then cutting it here. I feel like it's just so much more neat. So far it feels a lot more intuitive and clever. It's starting to come together. I've got a much better head on knowing how the software works now that I've watched a few tutorials and, you know, I experimented a little bit. So I'm going to a Kung Fu class now, so I have to go, but I will be back on this and I'm gonna get started editing something. So last night I was up until midnight-ish watching more Final Cut tutorials to try and learn as much as I can, and I kind of realized that one of the really amazing things about Final Cut is the keywords feature, where you can just find sections of a clip and you can keyword it with anything. So a keyword for like funny moments, or if it's like a music video, you could have cool wide angle shot, or you could literally keyword it as anything. You can kind of do that on Premiere, but it honestly is really clunky. It's not intuitive at all, and with Final Cut it actually looks like something I would want to use often. Yeah, I'm kind of impressed so far, and I haven't even edited the thing that I want to edit, so let's start doing that now. So I'm going to start again just because I've watched a bunch of tutorials. I think I have a much more decent perspective on how to actually use this software. We're gonna make this easy. So can you do keyword collections and keyword collections? What's the difference between a smart collection and a keyword collection? I don't know. Honestly, I think the way that I can work a lot of times is just to use keyword collection. They seem so useful in Final Cut that I can just use them for everything. I see some people using events as folders, but I'm kind of using keywords as folders, and I don't know which is better or worse. I'm gonna do how I saw someone doing it in a tutorial. The way I've set this up, he had it so an event, which is this thing, represented a folder in Premiere. So he would have an event which would be AO1, AO2, an event which was audio, but it seems like Final Cut automatically makes, like, I didn't make this keyword and I didn't make these keywords, and they're kind of already really well organized, and I don't really see why I should make a new event and then copy the name of this and then put it in here and then import the media. Like, maybe I can just use keywords. I'm going through footage now, right? I want to power through it basically. And yeah, it looks like I can scrub my playhead through here to listen back to the audio, but sometimes I just want to play it back at 2 times and then stop it and then go back, because it's kind of crucial to the way that I go through footage fast and find the parts that I actually want to use. Already this is really quick. Honestly, it's just the scrubbing of the playhead is really smooth, and that is like that is the whole core foundation of editing, is moving that playhead around the screen in various ways. And the fact that in Final Cut it is so smooth versus my experience with Premiere means that editing seems to be way faster, and I can navigate everything way more snappier. So like this is a massive deal right here. Like already I am shocked how fast this is. So we're gonna add a clip here. So what happens when I press E? And then what if I want to do a J cut here? All right, so this should go up. Whoa, too much. Yeah, so this is the whole magnetic timeline at work, right? And I'm already a bit confused by it because we want this to go up here to do a J cut, right? But in order to do a J cut, this clip should be here. But now these two are connected. How do I make them not connected? Stop. Stop. Be unconnected. No, come here. Come here. Ah, what? Detach audio? Oh, that's kind of cool. The whole time that I've been working with these clips, the audio is just intrinsically connected to it. Because as soon as I did this, I was like, oh, it looks like Premiere. That's kind of cool that you can choose for them to be like intertwined and then you can choose for them to be disconnected. Tutorial to the rescue. Okay, let's do it. Let's watch this guy. The position key means you can drag it wherever and it's not rippled to the front of it. Stop. 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 What am I doing wrong? For as long as I can remember. It's a medium that... Yeah, J-cut. Okay, we did it. Very awkwardly, but we did it. Nice. We're not gonna do J-cuts until we lay our edit, so let's lay our edit down first. And then I can start doing J-cuts with what we have. I kind of also don't know why you would have it like this because then you can't separate the audio and the video at all. So maybe this is just to keep it really, really simple for people who just want to do super, super simple cuts like beginners. And then this is really when things start to open up and we actually edit like I am familiar with and how professionals are probably going to use this software. One really interesting thing I'm starting to notice with Final Cut that I'm still trying to get a hold of is the magnetic timeline, but more importantly, it seems like the space underneath a clip is defined as actual space within the magnetic timeline. So here you've got this gap here can be selected and it can be manipulated. Like it can be trimmed. You can literally select a part of it and delete it and then it becomes two separate clips. But this isn't anything, it doesn't mean anything. Look, if I delete it, it just refers to the position of space within the magnetic timeline, which is really confusing at first and I didn't really understand what it meant, but as I'm editing this now and just playing around with J-cuts, I can see why it is useful and why it's necessary, because if I extend this, you see that this space here is selected, and then if I want to line this J-cut back up, for example, then I can just drag this up and then line up these two sections here. It's super confusing at first because in Premiere, like space where no clip is just, it isn't anything, right? But the fact that every single bit of empty space, at least in the storyline or the main track one, which is basically this, the space means something. Just getting my head around that is very confusing, but I get why it's necessary. And it kind of is starting to come together in my head a little bit in terms of how this magnetic timeline even works. Speaking of going through footage, so this is the exact same project that I'm recreating. Yeah, you can see this is the final timeline. But for instance, if I was to try and do the same thing of what I'm doing in Final Cut, where I would look at the footage and I would go through it and try to find the parts and then I would put them into the timeline. Like Final Cut, the way it shows you the waveforms, the way it's so easy to select what you want to select and then drop it into the timeline. Like there just isn't a way to do that as quickly because there's no way to see both the waveform and the video at the same time during your preview. So it's really hard to quickly skim through it. And also, like, for instance, there's no way without clicking to go through. And it's just way easier in Final Cut, the fact that I can just hover my mouse and it automatically moves the playhead. So to me, it just really does seem that Premiere wants you to take this clip and put it in the timeline, and then it wants you to go through and, you know, make a cut. It wants you to do that. Final Cut seems like it's a lot more about wanting you to, you know, find the parts that you actually want quickly in the actual project panel, I guess you would call it. And then bringing that into the timeline and then you do your little tweaks from there. So far, it's way better that way. Like the philosophy of it is so much nicer. Just scrubbing through the timeline, like for instance, this section of the edit, these are my proxy files. So they're the exact same proxy files. And just look how stuttery it is. This is a proxy file, the exact same proxy file that I'm using, and there's literally no effects over the top. This is just audio and video proxy file. If I want to find like a specific part of the waveform, I mean, yeah, I could put my arrow key there and then do it this way, but it just doesn't feel nice to use versus Final Cut, just being able to like, look at how smooth the video moves. It's just so much smoother and so much nicer, and you're like, why is this not smooth? It should be buttery smooth, and it's just not. So going through and selecting the main clips here to make up the edit makes it so much easier to find where I'm just messing up and where I'm just not saying anything. Like for instance here, you see this, there's a massive gap here where I don't say anything, but I know that for two reasons. One, I can clearly see the waveform here, and also I'm clearly looking down in these images, so it's just so easy for me to be like, no, that's not content, no, that's not content. Oh look, I have Premiere on in the background and the pop-up window just popped up over my Final Cut. I'm glad that I never ever see anything like that with Final Cut. Come on, Adobe, like, why do you not just background save? It's bizarre to me. I think the reason why Final Cut plays back so quickly is just the rendering. Because it background renders all the time, this is constantly playing back smoothly because it's just caching the files. And the fact that Premiere doesn't do that is insane to me. Like, the only negative with it is that your project can get pretty big. So this project is 21 gigabytes caching that it's done in the background. I end up having a big cache anyway because with Premiere, I always have to render what I'm looking at anyway, because if you look here, there's red here, and this is without effects on, right? So, oh look, it's stuttering, there we go. Oh, and the spinny wheel, and this is the bane of my life. As we can see here, it's not good enough. This happens too often with certain projects that I'm like, nah, like it froze here because this is a dynamic link. Premiere Pro can just not handle dynamic linking. It just doesn't know what to do with it. For me, the only thing that was really tying me to Premiere was the dynamic linking between After Effects. But the fact that I would have to render this anyway in the timeline to play it back smoothly means that I might as well just still use After Effects and just export out final renders, because I can't use linked comp because it just does not play smoothly. Oh, that's so nice. Look at that. So normally what I would have to do in Premiere, if I want to do a J-cut, let's say my audio is like this, right? And I want to do a J-cut. In order to make that happen, I have to click here, drag that up, click down, drag that up, then select both the clips and then move them there. Click all the stuff there and then move it here. But the fact that in Final Cut, I want to do a J-cut, and then it's there. That's incredible. Whoa, okay, crazy. I just J-cut the whole first section of this video in less than 3 minutes, 5 minutes maximum. I'm not sure, I'll have to have a look at the timer, but yeah, crazy. It's so fast to do J-cuts, and it's such an important thing that I do when I do videos, that how can I go back to doing the old way with Premiere? Okay, I'm gonna come back tomorrow and continue with this, but so far, really impressed. It's actually really fun editing because I can actually really do what I want to do, and it can happen quick on screen rather than the software bugging out or whatever. I mean, Final Cut has bugged out on me once so far. Let's see if with more effects, building up this project, let's see what happens. So I'll come back tomorrow. Okay, so day 3 and we're back on Final Cut again. I actually did some extra research again, and I found out that there's a whole index system where you can basically put notes on clips, and you can click on every single element that's in your timeline and you can just see it as an overview. So I just keep learning more and more things about this software that I'm just like, that's gonna be so useful, that's gonna be so useful, that's gonna be so useful. So today, gonna continue doing my edit, get it to a full place where it's basically all layered down. I'm gonna power through and see how far we can get. Let's get editing. The only bad thing that I'm starting to notice with Final Cut is that I don't believe there's a way to select every single clip underneath the playhead without dragging a box on like that, which is kind of annoying because there's a way to do it in Premiere and I use it all the time. And the only way it seems to do both is have them both selected and then do that, which, you know, it's fine, but if I can do it quickly with my keyboard, I want to. There maybe is a way to solve this, but I haven't figured it out. That could be one negative that I've discovered so far. Pablo's blowing my mind with favoriting the Premiere Pro expert. So I'm gonna try this new favorites technique that my friend Pablo just showed me. Any little opportunity I can get to speak to someone who has been using Final Cut for a while, like, I'm absolutely gonna take it. For instance, he was showing me like how he does J-cuts. So the way I was doing it was putting my clip on top, and then that would be the, let's say here, that would be the J-cut here. But the way that he was doing it was using the trim tool. So he would essentially push this over here, and then you see the audio would go over the top, and then you could always just roll the video back this way, which is a lot easier in my opinion. and you can just really finesse it and, you know, move it a little bit more here and then trim it back. You can also do stuff like nudge it back and forward, which is really cool. So we've laid everything down. Now the next step is to start doing J-cuts for everything with the new technique. It's a little bit hard to grab the symbol change because I feel like on Final Cut, that is two different symbols, but on this, like trim does so much. Yeah, trim is the slip tool in Final Cut, and it's also the ripple tool as well, so it's kind of a combination. Yeah, this method is way better than what I was doing here with like unnecessarily putting the video on top. So let's try and play this.
That explores two of my favorite things.
I played that pretty smoothly, but these little dots, if I let go, it's just gonna start rendering in the background. There we go, it's done. So it just cached that part.
Remember, it's a medium that
And now it'll
explores
play
two of my
back
favorite things.
perfectly smoothly. Why won't this gap be closed? Working with more layers, that seems to be the confusing
my
thing.
favorite.
That's really cool. So if you want to fill in a gap with, let's say for instance, this one, you can just drag it on. Wait, what? Whoa. Wait. Is this like you can have two options for clips constantly? Wow, no way. This is really cool. I don't know, like the idea is there. It's a little bit clunky here and there. I don't like how small this is. Can I make it bigger? The reason why they allow you to do this is that if you're unsure, you can test out two different options there and then. Finalize audition, and then it is there.
Ideas. They help shape.
And I can do that with anything. So let's try. So I can do it here. I kind of like that. I do like it. Really smart, really clever. I'm trying to manually edit in my head, like how often would I actually do that? If that means that I don't have to keep tracks underneath clips in order to test them out, then I guess it's better. For instance, in Premiere, I have a shot here, right? And then I think I had an alternative shot here. So the way in Premiere that you would do it is you would just make another track. So then underneath here, you could test them out like this, right? So that's me displaying it. And then I enable this and then I test it. So, you know, it's still fine, it's fast, but it just means that you will have a bunch of tracks to accommodate for the possible take variations that you have. But with Final Cut, it seems like it wants you to not do that very often. It's kind of weird because I would like this to go down and it doesn't seem like I can do that. It doesn't want to overwrite it for some reason. So you can create multiple storylines. This is confusing. I thought the storyline was just the first track, so what's this whole multiple storyline? What does that even mean? And then this is a storyline now? Can everything be a storyline? You can be a storyline. You can be a storyline. I don't understand the storyline thing. The plot thickens and it gets even deeper and deeper as we go into it. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there for now. We're getting some solid progress going on here. I think tomorrow I'm just gonna have to fill in the rest of the gaps and put some more overlays on and maybe figure out a few of the kinks and weird kind of things that I've not really fully understood yet in terms of like the mindset around transferring to this software. So I'll see you tomorrow. So we're back. It's not exactly one day later now. I got busy with other stuff, so let's crack on and do some more editing in Final Cut. Timeline is J-cut. That was pretty fast. I know I filmed this over multiple days, but I think in total it was relatively quick. Obviously, I was a lot slower. Because I was trying to learn what was going on with the software. So now it's about adding in overlays, B-roll in relation to what I'm talking about, showing that on screen so I can give you a good indication of, you know, how fast it is to drop it in and move it and position it. So let's crack on with that. So I want to try and find a transition to help these cuts a lot better. I need to find some sort of panning swoosh transition. So how does this work? Because now what I want is I want it to apply the transition on both of these, but now it seems to only be applying it to that one layer versus in Premiere, this transition affects every single layer beneath it. The plot thickens. So it seems that Final Cut wants you to do compound clips. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe I'll learn to love them with time, but okay, let's make it a compound clip. It's a bit too heavy for it, so it needs to do a little render. I wish there was a way to preview the audio from the non-compounded timeline because, you know, like if you want to adjust the timings of this and then have it here, it's really hard to do that unless you hear the actual audio, right? So say if when I say a specific word here, you want a certain clip to go here, but now the cut happens here, right? But there's no way to adjust, I don't think. And there's no way to hear the audio because there's no audio on this clip. So with this paper texture, it's a little bit short. So I think what I'm gonna do is try and create a compound clip. So it's pretty long, which means that I don't have to always duplicate it because I'm gonna be using this animation a lot, this background. So let's turn this into a compound clip. Can you do compounds within compounds? Compoundception. Compound within a compound clip, is it possible? It's possible. Is there a way to smart filter compound clips? It works. Compound, very good. Okay, this is very useful. That circle, the loading circle, I would love it to just be like, and then done. My God. Oh wow, this is a really cool thing that I just found. So you can adjust the scaling of multiple clips at once, which I could never do with Premiere unless I nested it. So for example, these are all unnested clips. And then if I highlight this and then say if I want to scale it down, so I can scale it down like that, and then I can press done, and then they're all scaled to the exact same size. Make it really small, press done, and then they're all really small, which is a massive time saver in my opinion, because then it means that you don't have to press this to paste the actual effects on the clip itself, because otherwise I would have to highlight them and then do that. This is a little bit quicker. So anything that's a little bit quicker is nice. So that's another edit session. I'm gonna leave it there for this evening. Really happy with the progress that I've made. Conclusions are, for this session is so much easier to actually find the moments in the clips that I want to add them into the timeline. Learning a few extra little keyboard shortcuts here and there to speed things up. And compound clips seem to be the way to go. Let's continue tomorrow. As I'm building up this edit, one thing that I really like is whenever I'm moving between this project panel and then I want to move back to where the clip is, if for whatever reason I've lost my place within the timeline, as long as I have named things correctly, it's really easy to just go into the index and scroll down or even search for that clip. So, you know, I'm working on this clip now with overlays from this music video, and I know that I labeled it as Jill Overlays 1. And as soon as I click on that, it takes me right there. So it's just a really nice way to find your way back to a certain position in the timeline. First, look at keyframes. So I want to fade out my end screen right here. How do we do that? Opacity. This is a keyframe. Okay. Is there a way to like physically see the keyframes? Show video animation. Oh, ooh, okay. Yeah, you can right click and change what kind of curve it is. That's pretty neat. I want an ease out. I want a linear. I want an ease. And you can do the same with the audio, I guess. Show audio animation. I mean, can you? Yeah, you can do keyframes on audio as well. So let's try. What's the purpose of showing audio? What's the difference between this one and then the keyframes? This is like just a quick fade, and this is something else. Because this doesn't show me any animation at all. Okay, so I've basically laid down the whole edit. All I need to do now is export a few After Effects sequences from Premiere that I need to render out because they are linked comps right now. Add them into the edit, and then I have to add music, and I also have to make the audio good on my dialogue, and then also grade it. I like how I'm actually understanding what gaps do now, because for instance, in this situation, if I wanted to shift everything to the right of this playhead that way, in Premiere, I would always press A, and then I would physically select everything and then shift it over to the right. You can't really do that in Final Cut, or rather it doesn't want you to do that. Like, the philosophy of the software is not about you doing that. Therefore, in order to do anything like that, you have to basically insert a gap, which would then nudge everything that way. So do that. And then this means that I actually can shove everything to the right while still keeping all the magnetism that goes along with this magnetic timeline. All right, so all animations are in now. I think I'm gonna add in music or dialogue. Music first. Let's try that. So I'm gonna make this easy on myself, and I'm gonna add in just the same music that I added in here. Ah, wow, interesting. I didn't even notice this. Because I have audio lanes shown, now it says music here. So as we can see, dialogue, music, and if we look here in roles, yeah, you'll see very clearly that there's a very specific Is there a way to quickly add a keyframe? There is, yes! Sorry, plant. I do this in Premiere all the time. For me, it's just easier sometimes if I want to quickly adjust something, so.
The music video medium is a hot.
So it's very cool that I can do that. And I can change the, I can't change the type if it's like linear or if there's any sort of a Bezier curve. Maybe there is a way to do it, but I don't know exactly how. I really like this as well, where there's a feature in the index, or rather the roles, where you can focus the timeline on this role. And as you can see here, it's collapsed all the dialogue that we have here. So I can really just focus on what's going on here without seeing any audio stuff. And I guess it's nice because then if you have many layers, you can see more video layers than you would have otherwise been able to, depending on your screen size. So as you can see here, when I press that, if I had stacks and stacks of video layers, I would be able to see a lot more because this dialogue is not taking up 3 tracks of the screen. So I really like that feature. It seems very intuitive. There's no way to select multiple keyframes. R, the tool I barely ever use. All right, at least it's possible to use. That's kind of cool. I like this, what would you even call it? Like extra audio fade output input, because it's not like a keyframe, for instance, where if I go back, then the keyframes disappear. Like for example, in this situation, I accidentally put it here when it actually needed to start fading out here. And that means I don't have to redraw the keyframes again because it just sticks with the actual audio itself. So that's a really nice little feature, just to save me constantly making mistakes and being punished for that. As in the punishment being, you have to redo the keyframes again. Okay, music is all layered. I should work on the dialogue now. Arguably, I should have done that before I did the music, but you live and you learn. So let's see how audio works. So in order to sort out the dialogue, we don't want to apply the audio effects on every single one. And because there's no tracks in Final Cut, we can't just add an audio effect to audio track 1, audio track 2, audio track 3. So from what I understand, the best way to do it is to select the whole edit like that, and then turn it into a compound clip. So let's do a roll edit. Here, that's the whole edit basically, that we've J-cut, put in as the main A-roll edit. So now what we need to do is go into audio effects, I guess. EQ. But right away, this visualization of the EQ, much nicer than Premiere's way of doing it. I guess because Apple also make Logic Pro, which is a very popular music production, music recording piece of software. So these graphics and, you know, just the interface of that is most likely pretty similar to that. Yeah, this is what it looks like in Premiere. You know, it works. I've used it a couple times and you can get what you want out of it, but that versus that. Come on, what's nicer? So now we've done dialogue, we've done music, we've done the whole A-roll, overlays, all that stuff. Now it's time to do something that is a favorite of mine, which is color correction. Some of you might not know that I actually learned how to color grade in DaVinci when I was at university. And I feel like there was one time where I was a better colorist than I was an editor. I actually color graded way more than I ever edited. Now it's kind of more even. I am very curious how grading is gonna work in this, because honestly with Premiere, I actually like Lumetri. I like the interface, I like the layers structure. It could be better, there's still things that I don't like about it, but I actually don't mind it. The only thing I really mind is performance. As soon as I build up layers and I try to work with the original 10-bit raw files, for example, any sort of white balance adjust, I have to move the slider and then I'll wait for a few seconds, and then it does it, which just pulls me out of my flow. The whole idea with color correction is that you want to just manipulate stuff and quickly see the change so you can quickly adapt and tweak things. And you just can't do that in Premiere. At least I can't with my current hardware. So I'm really curious how Apple have undertook grading and how it all looks. So let's have a look at it. This is the main color icon. Color inspector, that's what they call it. There's many different ways that you can grade in terms of, yeah, there's color board, which is kind of a weird way to grade. Like, how do you even do brightness, midtones? It's all color related. And then there's also color wheel, which is a bit more traditional. And then we also have color curves, and then delete correction. So there's multiple corrections. And can you change the order of these corrections? The order with grading matters a lot, and it's the whole reason why in DaVinci, that you have nodes, because the order that you grade certain things really matters and it affects the overall grade. But it doesn't seem like you can change the order here, which is a bit weird. Let's do color wheel. Let's delete this color board. Yes, it seems like this is just the grade, and then you can tweak hue saturation. The fact that you can't choose the order is kind of bizarre. We want to add a LUT. So how, maybe it's not even possible to do that here. It has to be done through the effects. Color? Custom LUT, here we go. You go in here. And we're gonna add my default LUT from Gerald and Dunn. Good old Gerald and Dunn.
Let's get undone.
I've used this LUT a lot because it is a really, really good way to take your footage and put it into a pretty decent place, and then you can grade from this and get it to exactly the look that you want it to be at. All right, so that's our, oh my God. So you can choose the order. Okay, so we got our custom LUT on here. Seems that the way Final Cut works is that you have a section for Lumetri where you can see the corrections layer, and then if you go here, there's even more details regarding if you want to just, you know, turn it on and off, or you want to change the order. So that is similar to Premiere, to be fair. There's nothing incredibly different there. So let's do some white balance adjustment. Okay, so far there's relatively smooth. Okay, so these are like sliders that are all connected to these sliders as well. Very subtle difference, right? This is just with the LUT, so that's before, and then just got rid of the greens a bit. I shifted it over a little bit to the skin tone line because it was, you know, leaning a little bit yellowy, greeny. Now let's add another color wheel, and the order matters here, right? So right now, yeah, so we started with that, then we did a little adjustment, and then we did our LUT. And now let's start dialing in the contrast, because I normally like to do contrast first. Yeah, so we've done some brightness adjustments. We just expanded out the dynamic range a little bit. And then we want to do another grade. So this is how I normally grade in Premiere. I'll even show you right now how I normally have it set up. So I have pre-LUT, LUT, contrast, color, and I rename these specific layers. So I really do hope there is a way to rename. And then yeah, I have them in this specific order. It starts from top to bottom. So comes pre-LUT, LUT, contrast, color. So I'm trying to do a similar thing here, minus the being able to rename what is going on. So let's do color wheels again. Let's just double check the order. Let's actually grade now. It's very, very quick. Very, very quick so far. It's actually like doing what I want it to do. It's not stuttering, it's not going crazy. And this is what I want from grading software. As soon as I move it to a color, I want to see that translated on screen, because the way I grade is not super mechanical. I just go by it, feeling how it's looking. I'm like looking at the image, moving it around to one direction, another direction, seeing what it needs. I'll use the scopes and the vector scopes, but I'm going a lot off what looks good to my eye. So, you know, roughly something like that. I can maybe put a bit more orangey in the highlight, something like that. Before, after, and that was just with the color wheels moving then. Before, after, that looks a lot better. Amazing. So let's say that's our grade done. Sometimes I would go in even more and do things like stuff like hue sat curves. If my lips are too red, you know, you can change it, drop it out, but it affects the skin. But yeah, I don't think I need to do it for this. It looks fine. That's completely ungraded, and that is graded. Crazy how all this time we were looking at that image, basically. I can't imagine looking at that for as long as we did.
Process. So in this video, I want to show you 5 music videos that heavily influenced me in my whole journey of becoming a music video filmmaker.
I could tweak this forever, but let's say I'm on a deadline and I need to get this out. So let's do the render test. This is gonna be really interesting because one of the big reasons why I did want to change to Final Cut is because I've heard and watched and read and everything in between that rendering is so much faster in Final Cut. And I feel that if Final Cut is truly like that with exporting, that is a massive positive for the software. And it will literally mean that I can release videos quicker and being able to just edit out a full version, watch it in full screen, playing back properly, and then to be able to make changes and export out really, really quick a second version. So let's do a Premiere export first. So in total, the version in Premiere is 6 minutes, 44 seconds. And Final Cut is 6 minute 15. It's not exactly the same because I think that maybe I chose some different take options in this one. So let's say that there is a discrepancy of 30 seconds. So we'll take that into account as well when we look at the edit export times. So the Premiere version is slightly longer. And also we'll take into account a little bit that there are a few extra music tracks here. We'll also take into account that most of the animations that we have, like for example, all these animations here where we see the music video being introduced in Premiere, most of them are linked comps. So I imagine the software has to render the linked comps as well, versus in Final Cut, I already rendered them out of After Effects. This is just a video file basically. So we'll take those multiple things into account. I'll try and be as fair as possible, and let's start the render process, I guess. We will export in 4K because that's the resolution that I shot in. 4K YouTube preset, straight to the desktop with 4 layers of grading, same as the grade that I did in Final Cut. 1 pass VBR, the estimated file size is 2 gig, so fairly reasonable. Let's do a straight export from Premiere and let's see what the time is gonna be. Right away we have 5 hours. Surely not. Surely not. I'm not sitting here for 5 hours. Let's do Final Cut first. Let's do it. So Final Cut just finished its render. I'm gonna leave Premiere Pro to do its render overnight because it's late now and I don't want to sit in front of the computer waiting for it to finish. So good night. So it's the morning after. Comparing the 2 export times between Premiere and Final Cut, the results are interesting. Let's say that Premiere Pro took 48 minutes, which is way quicker than I expected. The progress bar was being really weird at first, and then I guess during the night it just sped up towards the end. Final Cut, the export took 40 minutes. So an 8-minute difference, which is way closer than I ever expected them to be. And I'm kind of confused because I presume that if Final Cut took 40 minutes, Premiere would take double the time. And I also did another export test in Final Cut just to double check that there wasn't any weird problems with the export, and it was basically the same time. And it's also really weird because the progress bar with Final Cut goes to 44% and then it just finishes the file. And I played the file back and it's correct, like the file is all fully rendered and exported. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or whether Premiere's latest update has made it way faster exporting H.264. You could argue that it basically took the same time. So disappointing. I was expecting Final Cut to handle this 6-minute 15 edit and like trounce it, as in like it would do it in 10 minutes or something. And it didn't, so I'm not sure what to make of it. I mean, maybe that is a limitation of this computer. It's not an M1 chip. Maybe with M1 it would just be blazingly fast because it's not optimized yet. Or maybe Premiere just got really good and I'm gonna switch over at the wrong time in history to do so. Would have been a nice ending to this whole video where I'm like, look, 10 minutes, it was twice as fast or 3 times as fast. However, I still want to say that performance-wise, what I've experienced with this software is really, really nice. Like, that is a massive difference. The background rendering, being able to scrub through the timeline, the magnetic timeline, being able to quickly like move clips along and do ripple deletes. And there's a lot of things in this software that encourages a quicker workflow, being able to get your edit down quicker and adjust things. So yes, the rendering might be similar, but the actual putting the edit together to get it to a point where you can render is arguably a lot faster in Final Cut versus Premiere. So as you've probably figured out by now, if you've made it this far into the video, I'm going to be fully switching over to Final Cut Pro. I'm still open to editing in Premiere if a certain project calls for it, but otherwise I'm just really excited to delve deeper into the intricacies of what Final Cut has to offer. Now, if you liked this video, you'll probably like this other one on my channel where I talk about 5 of the best one-take music videos ever made. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because if you do, I will definitely give you Leonardo DiCaprio's phone number. Maybe. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.